It's Perp back with another video, and I just got done watching season 2 of Yellowjackets episode 3. Let's get right into it though. So it kicks off with them showing you them really going ham on Jackie's body, and they just leave nothing but bone. So they went ham, they ate everything, and they're kind of coming to that realization that they just ate a human being. Taisa is definitely like freaking out because she definitely blacked out, and Van tries to like snap her out of it, saying like, look, I was right there with you, you were eating her face. I was like, oh, crazy. Also, they decide to take her remains to the plane to make it look like she was a part of the accident as well, to kind of hide any evidence just in case. But then we dive more into Ben's background, because he's definitely next on the chopping block, literally, and he's going through starvation. He is hallucinating. We get to kind of see a little bit more of his life with Paul, where he actually had this kind of back and forth with Paul, where he chose to go with his team to nationals because he didn't really want to face the fact that he was a gay man. And Paul was like, I want somebody that is going to be all in or not, you know what I'm saying? And I like that they kind of gave us an alternate kind of thing or a decision, that if Ben didn't decide to get on that plane, that he would have still been living his life with Paul. But that was a cool, interesting kind of little backstory to kind of give him as he's kind of drifting off and hallucinating, and he's obviously hungry, but he knows that he's the next one up. Then we go over to Natalie, and it's kind of weird because I feel like Natalie never really believed in this whole spiritual healing thing that Lottie is doing. She always felt some type of way, but I like that they keep showing us interactions between her and, I think her name is Lisa, and I think she sees a little bit of herself at that age in Lisa, which we'll get back to that. Now Taisa, she is really going through it. She is seeing things at the hospital. She is completely fine. She probably just got a sore neck, but it's not looking good for Simone. She's pretty banged up, and she's on a machine and whatnot. But the interesting thing is that Taisa drew that symbol, and keep in mind, she says, she tells the nurse, it's a sign for protection. We'll get back to that. The most, or I should say the least favorite aspect of this episode, but I kind of am curious to see where this lands by the end of the season, is the whole Misty looking for Nat with Elijah Wood's character, while they're interrogating this guy that has seen what was going on at the hotel, and they get this information that it was a bunch of people dressed in purple, which is interesting because now Misty doesn't really know about this cult and whatnot and who's really behind it, but she's got enough information to move forward. Also, she might have found her love interest with Elijah Wood's character, so it's going to be interesting to kind of see where that goes. And but he is kind of looking into the whole Adam thing, so yeah, it's going to be interesting. And if he starts to poke around too much, Misty might have to get rid of him, so we'll have to wait and see. Jumping over to Shawna and Jeff, they're having this conversation, and Jeff is really trying to spice things up in the marriage, and they're trying to get away from this whole Adam situation. It seems like he's just trying to kind of cope with that, but then when they think that they ran somebody over, it ends up being like a setup where this guy ends up taking the minivan, and this makes Shawna just kind of snap and get into Rambo mode. As Jeff says, like, what do you think, you're Rambo? That was fucking hilarious. And she's going to do whatever it takes to get that minivan back. Jeff's just like, yo, just let it go. And it's going to be, I'm curious to see where Jeff's character is going to go by the end of this season. We'll get back to that because we get some of my favorite moments of the series so far with Shawna. So as Lottie is continuously showing Nat around the whole kind of place that they're at. She kind of talks about her beehive and how they need to survive. If they don't, they're going to starve, yada yada. We go back to the wilderness, and Lottie says some interesting things that tries to comfort Shawna, where Shawna's kind of just worried about the baby. Lottie's like, don't worry about him. Knowing that it's a boy is interesting. I just don't know what's going to end up happening to the baby. And shout outs to one of the commenters that let me know that Callie was never that baby that was inside Shawna when they were in the wilderness. So I'm wondering what happened to that baby. I have no idea. That's going to be interesting. But they come up with this whole idea to have a baby shower. Odd, but it is what it is. They try to get their mind off of just devouring Jackie, so I guess this is the next best thing. Crystal and Misty, though, have kind of a weird conversation, talking about, Crystal was talking about, this is not my first time eating a human being. I ate my twin while I was in my mother's womb, which was so fucking weird how she said it, and, this was right up Misty's alley. Coach is sitting there tripping, thinking that, he's paranoid. So he just decides, I'm going to take my ass in my room. I'm just going to sit there and just hope for the best. Hopefully they don't get hungry and they want to start to take a bite out of me, which it's already set in stone. You're showing this guy's backstory and everything. They're setting him up to die. You know what I'm saying? In what type of way, I have no idea. But it's going to be fascinating. I have some theories about everything that's going on in this episode that is kind of a little bit clear to me. But we'll have to wait until the end of the review to kind of I'll give you my thoughts on that. So Nat goes out to the plane to drop Jackie's remains, and she says some final words saying, you're lucky because shit's about to get even worse here. You're already dead. You don't have to worry about what's about to happen next. There's this white moose, which I feel like is symbolism that's just all in her head. Now, the most interesting part, one of the most interesting parts about this, where we learn of who possibly is behind everything, is when Van, is watching over Ty, and Ty just wakes up, and then Van says, like, no, let me come with you. And as they're walking through the woods, Van is asking a series of questions like, who are you if Taisa is not in control? And we also get a name drop of that guy that's been teased throughout this whole entire series. He's referred to as who has no eyes, the man with no eyes, or something like that. Really bizarre. And we see that symbol again. Taisa is able to wake up, and yeah, that's that. But we got a name. You know what I'm saying? A very creepy name, and I have some predictions. Just stay tuned, and I'll give you my thoughts on that at the end of this video. Now we get some of my favorite parts of this series, but before we do that, I think Jeff is going to make things even worse, where he starts to go up to Kevin, a cop, nonetheless, and say, like, you got some bad intel, but it's just not, he just made the block hot for both. Now Shawna, now he's going to start to kind of look into this. They already have a cop on Callie, so things are going to get worse before they get better. But my favorite part of this episode, and probably the series so far, one of them, is when Shawna goes back to go get the minivan, and she pulls the gun on this guy, and this guy's like, I see you shaking. You don't want to do this. And then Shawna quickly says, no. Have you ever, like, peeled the skin off of a human corpse? And it freaks this guy out, and he ends up giving up the keys. And I love that. And it was just a brilliant, well-constructed scene. Bravo, Shawna. Like, that was terrifying, because I thought, damn, she's going to shoot me through the goddamn screen. But she was able to get back the minivan. So let me know how you guys feel about that scene in the comments below. Then we jump back to the 90s, when they're in the wilderness, they're getting ready for they're having the baby shower. Everybody's kind of giving their gifts. Misty decides to do this monologue to this, I guess it's a play or a movie, I have no idea, and she's acting her ass off, bro. It was really dope. Jumping back to Taisa, she's kind of just trying to freshen up a little bit, but then she ends up seeing her reflection not moving and just muttering words and saying, and she's asking like, what do you want? And it seems like it just like does this thing with its eye, just covering up an eye, and I have no idea what that means. Like I said, I have some thoughts. I could be wrong, but just stay tuned. Next, we get a scene of Natalie doing like joining this whole spiritual healing group thing, and Lottie uses Nat as kind of like an example and gives Lisa a fork and just like, let all your anger out, let all your feelings out, and it ends up being like this whole forgiveness thing. And I think this is what's going to make Nat kind of start to look at Lottie differently, maybe. But then we jump back and we see what Lottie gives Shawna for a gift, and it's a blanket with the symbol on it, and Nat is not really digging that. She's like, why would you do that? And Lottie says, like, just because you don't understand what this is doesn't make it evil. And she also references this symbol as a symbol for protection. Her nose, talking about Shawna, starts bleeding, and then they start to hear this bang, bang, bang all over the cabin, and it ends up being all these dead birds, almost like a plague, which this is probably where they start to do more of the ritual stuff that we saw in season 1. And that's all going to lead into this. Now we're going to get into my theories, because the episode ends off with Lottie having her mind being fucked with. When she goes back to her beehive, she just sees it all covered in blood. She's like freaking out. She doesn't know what the hell's going on. And then she kind of snaps out of it, and none of it's there. So what I'm thinking is, whoever this man without the eyes is, because they've been gone for so long, it's followed them. Everybody's had a successful life, but they have stopped doing offerings to this entity, and he starts to mess with them. It's like, look, you have to keep this up, or something bad is going to happen to people around you. And that's what my kind of theory is, why things are kind of going left with all these different characters. But this was a fantastic episode. We finally got like a name. There's still some mystery behind it all, and I just can't wait to see how the rest of this season is going to play out. Let me know how you guys feel about this in the comments below. What was some of your favorite moments? Where do you think they're going to go from here? Till next time, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.